Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast, now streaming live on YouTube and in your ears if you are listening to this. I am Chris Gore, the editor of Film Threat. I am sitting right next to me, another Chris. It's a double dose of Chris today. Chris J. Mancini, formerly of Comedy Film Nerds, now here with us at Film Threat.
Great to be here.
Yeah, no,
a lot of movies happened in 2019.
A lot of movies and some good ones.
Yeah.
So there is so much to discuss. I want to launch right into it. I want to talk about one of my favorites. And I say one of my favorites because there's...
Six Underground?
My favorite of 2019 is probably going to blow your mind because it's not going to be what you expect.
Really? Okay.
Let's talk about one of my favorites.
Okay.
Sam Mendes, 1917.
Why wouldn't I think that would be one of your favorites?
Well, I don't know. I am a big fan of war films. I think...
it's an amazing film.
It's an amazing film from the standpoint of, I think everybody knows what the conceit of 1917 is, which is that it all takes place in one shot, or seemingly takes place in one shot, right? You can tell that but the first 20 minutes, I have no idea how they did it. You just see it's one shot. Two World War I soldiers are sent on a mission. A very personal one is one of the soldiers. He has to deliver a message that could save his brother. So they have to go across enemy lines to deliver a message to save 1,600 souls.
Yes.
Very dramatic. But the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie, you can't see where they cut. There's some obvious places where they made a transition.
Right.
Something goes dark, whatever. But apparently, according to the actors in the film, they spent 6 months rehearsing it so that they could do it backwards and forwards.
Well, it's not just the lead actors, too. You've got everybody in the background moving around. And this film was just a living, breathing thing that you saw. And I think part of the magic of this film was, it looks like one continuous shot. But there was something else that this film did that was very unique, especially for a war film. And by using this technique, this is what they did. They made the protagonist, the main lead protagonist, the war itself, not the two lead characters. Because what you're doing is you're seeing the war as the actual protagonist, and you're seeing it through the eyes of these characters. But your eyes constantly going to the background on what's actually happening around these two characters. So I really thought that was an ingenious way to kind of shoot this film, because I thought one continuous take was only half of it. The other half was that where your focus goes to actually show what the filmmaker wants you to see.
There's also some great cameos. I mean, there's... and those, everyone has to make their mark, not just,
Every famous hot British actor right now gets one scene. That must have been how it was cast.
Doctor Strange was in there. So
Sherlock, Moriarty.
Everyone is in there. But that was one of my favorites, and it's also one that I believe you need to see in a theater to truly experience it. The first time I watched it was on a screener. I feel guilty. I shouldn't have done that. Really, truly the way to experience it is,
big screen.
And it won the Golden Globes. So I feel like that's another reason that you should go out to see it. Is winning award, at least awards, is at least some sort of filter to go, okay, enough people liked this that it's worth my time. But 1917 on my list. What's something else that's on your list for best of 2019?
For sure, it was 1917 is on the list.
Right.
And Parasite is also on my list.
Okay.
And there's one movie I want to talk about that's not on any lists. And
What?
I think it really should be.
What?
Because it was an overlooked gem. It was Paddleton, which has Ray Romano and Mark Duplass in it. And I thought it was a fantastic movie. It was a great little character study with two characters. One finds out he's terminally ill, and it's basically a road journey of these two characters that are almost kind of on the spectrum that about how they're going to deal with ending one of their lives. And the thing about it is I saw it just after Avengers Endgame, and I loved Endgame, but I also loved this movie, and it just really brought home like the power of cinema. It could be anything you want it to be. It could be this giant, huge, space fight, and I could love it, or it could be this really small character study with two great performances, because really 90% of the movie was just those two interacting with each other. There were a couple of supporting characters, but not many. And it was one of those movies that, it was a Netflix film, so it was under the radar. It didn't get a lot of press, but I thought it was one of Ray Romano's finest performances.
Well, I mean, look at Ray Romano in The Irishman, which is another movie we haven't talked about yet. The Irishman, which, if it only has one flaw, it's the length. It could have been 2 movies. It could have been a trilogy, actually. I think The Irishman could have been its own trilogy. But
I honestly felt like it was going back and forth where, like, Netflix goes to Martin Scorsese, we need a miniseries. It's like, well, I want to make a movie. I'm like, all right, well, you can make a movie. All right, I'm going to make the movie, but it's going to feel like a miniseries. I felt like it was like some weird circular discussion that was going on Netflix. But at the end of the day, I didn't care. I watched it like a miniseries. It took me about 3 days, and it didn't diminish or enhance my enjoyment of it at all. I just enjoyed it for what it was as far as a piece of content, really. Does it matter what you call it or what the length is? It's it was one of those things that it could be a really long movie, or if you put endpoints on, you could make it a miniseries of 3 episodes too. But would that change how I felt about it? No.
Well, I found a little distracting just knowing the ages of the lead actors in the film. I thought a little distracting looking at them. They're young, they're old. It does sort of bounce back and forth in time.
Yeah, at some point it was like, oh wait, how old are they in real life again? You kind of like wait,
Well, it's interesting because I saw that Scorsese did an interview and he was talking about how that he really wanted this de-aging technology to get to a point where you didn't have to have the dots on people's faces, which is what they've used in the Marvel films, right? So I think that it's distracting for the actors to have all this, your face is covered in dots in a grid.
The mocap stuff.
Yeah, right. So finally the technology had gotten to that point. So he was able to make it. I just think it's one of the greatest. But I think that here's the problem with that film has nothing to do with the film itself. It has to do with the fact that our expectation for Scorsese and De Niro and that amazing cast, Al Pacino, is always that they're great. So that they're great so often that when they make a movie, it's like, but they're always great. So in a sense, it's like we've sort of lost our appreciation for what they're capable of doing. And when you see the other films that are in the mix being talked about, in comparison to Irishman, I don't think they're nearly as good. But the problem is like, oh, these people are good, but they're new. They're new people to the table, so to speak.
Well, the thing about The Irishman, too, is it really had this nostalgic feel to it. Like it had this weird, it's a weird comparison, but it reminded me to the Pee Wee Herman holiday movie, Pee Wee Takes a Holiday.
Wait a second, how does Pee Wee Takes a Holiday?
I'm going to tell you how it relates.
How it connects to The
Absolutely.
Irishman.
How it relates, because you have actors and filmmakers that have been around for a fair amount of time. And they have this nostalgia factor. If you look into like Casino and all the way back to Mean Streets and Goodfellas, and you have all these great actors in these films, you have this great director, and you're still making a mob movie that was like what we've already seen, but you're also making it interesting and fresh. You're taking all these like nostalgic pieces and showing new, interesting things on top of it. The way Pee Wee Herman did in from Pee Wee's Big Adventure to Pee Wee's Holiday, and I was just thinking of that. Like, it's such a hard balance to strike, where you either appeal to nostalgia, but the movie's not that good, or the movie's okay and the nostalgia, I'm like, well, that was nothing like I remember. But to thread that needle, to actually do both, is not easy to do, because you're looking at all like Scorsese. You could argue that, well, this is kind of Scorsese's greatest hits of all his mob movies that are kind of put into this movie.
That makes sense.
Which I can see that point, but at the same time, these are actors that doing what they've done best for literally decades. And we get to see them do it at least one more time. To me, that was exciting and interesting, and it showed me a story that I hadn't seen before. So I loved it all the way through.
So it is the Avengers Endgame of Scorsese movies.
It really is. And the Pee Wee Herman.
Now, speaking also about films that evoke nostalgia, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino. It's one of the films, the non-Star Wars superhero related films that I was looking forward to this year.
Right.
Was seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it totally delivered. It was just amazing to see. Now
let me ask you this, though.
Yes.
Halfway through this movie, because it's another very long film, did you think to yourself, like I did, this is the least violent Quentin Tarantino movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, until the end.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the end delivers.
And then you go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, it's a Quentin Tarantino movie.
And then it finally delivers. Yeah, no, I love that. I love the film. I bought a bunch of tickets. A whole group of us went on opening night at the Dome, and the Dome is featured very briefly in the film. But I just loved it because I love everything about old Hollywood. I love this, the way that Quentin Tarantino treats his characters with such love and respect, yet they're all in like this horrible place in their lives.
Once you get past the fact that none of this is really based in fact or truth. It's very.
I like that.
It's very loosely related to any actual events. And once you get past that, I had a lot of fun at the movie. Like if you're expecting to see like his take on like a biopic or something really happened, you're going to be disappointed.
Well, yes, it's not historically accurate.
Yeah, it's like in the way Inglourious Bastards showed World War II.
Now, I do want to say, on the regular episode of a Film Threat podcast, which you might be listening to, if you want to reach out to us or use hashtag Film Threat Podcast, we try to answer your questions. We are recording this also on YouTube. So if you have any questions, jump into the chat and we will respond to your questions and comments. And as we continue our conversation about 2019's best and worst films, can I say what I think one of the worst films of this year is?
Let's get into it because we haven't talked about Parasite yet, but let's go straight to worst.
Parasite, we're going to talk. Well, that's not in the worst.
No.
Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is a movie that I did not like.
Oh, here we go again.
Yes, I know. I can't. Well, Star Wars is a running thread of something I've talked about in the Film Threat podcast since we began. But boy, did I not love this finale. I feel like, you know what I feel like? I feel like the script was terrible. I feel like, and JJ was against all these odds, right, trying to get this thing made. But I feel that, and of course we're talking spoilers because we're assuming you've seen most of these movies.
Or listen to the other episodes.
Or listen to other,
yeah.
Exactly. I feel like I'm Rey. Rey Skywalker is the new Martha. With all due respect to the screenwriter, Chris Terrio of Batman v Superman, that was all 9 of the Star Wars movies might have just ended with a brah, brah. I mean, it's become a meme. I was looking online and there are all these there's this sort of 6-panel thing of Batman and it's Christian Bale's Batman from Batman Begins and he grabs this guy and he says, "I'm Batman." And then the guy says, "Batman who?" And he says, "Batman Skywalker." It's dumb. I mean, it's just how did they let this horrible script get through?
It's one of those times when there was a deleted scene that ended up being in the actual movie.
Right.
I felt like that was like a weird add-on scene that was completely unnecessary at the end, but it didn't quite get me as angry as you did. I just kind of rolled my eyes at it.
I think you pointed out that it would someone commented that it's like basically the script for Rise of Skywalker was basically written out of 2 years of Reddit comments. Right? It's just they should make Rey a Palpatine. I mean, all this stuff. It just, look, as a longtime Star Wars fan.
Can you imagine whose job that was? Look, read all these Reddit comments and then come back with a script.
Yeah, just do what Reddit wants. I was colossally disappointed with The Rise of Skywalker. It didn't get better on second viewing.
That's not going to happen. What your initial reactions to this film, good or bad, are only going to be reinforced as you watch it again.
Right,
There's no question. No repeat viewing of this film is going to change your mind. I've seen it twice already, and I still enjoyed it the second time. Again, I was able to put all of those things aside. I was able to overlook all of the obvious plot holes and story issues, and then just have a lot of fun. And the nostalgia washed over me. Again, something that we've been talking about a lot because of all of these revived franchises that we've seen,
right?
Because that's kind of a new thing, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It didn't. This one worked for me.
Okay, it didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. I was horribly disappointed, and
just rewatch The Mandalorian. You'll feel better.
Yes. Well, The Mandalorian is definitely sort of, to me, feels real Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like whenever they tried to lean into nostalgia in Rise of Skywalker, it was used incorrectly. It was used as I mean, some people have said J.J. Abrams is very good at giving fan jobs. So but I feel like the way that they used nostalgia in The Mandalorian was used correctly. It wasn't, it added to the lore. It didn't just say, "Hey, I know what that is. I know what that is. I know what that is."
There's a huge difference. Yeah. I mean, The Mandalorian, that nostalgia is Easter eggs, right? And they're not critical to any character or the plot of the story, because with the Skywalker series, the saga, especially the last three, is you had to put all these older characters in the forefront, and you also had to, like you said, do a lot of fan service to not just them, to all of these other events that happen. With The Mandalorian, you're starting with a clean slate, and you don't have to show Luke or the droids or anybody in these episodes, but you could pepper it with these really cool Easter eggs and different things that are happening, but they're not critical and they're not taking away from anything in the story. So I think it's a different animal still in the Star Wars universe, and I'm thoroughly enjoying Mandalorian. But now we got to wait a year now for the next season.
Yeah, you just cancel your Disney Plus and then resubscribe under a different email address next year. That's what's going to happen. I don't know. I feel like that the sequel trilogy was doomed when the decision was made with the first film to not treat the legacy characters with respect. There's nothing wrong with going off into the sunset. There's nothing wrong with the Millennium Falcon flying with the sort of glint of a star, and Chewie and Han and Luke and Leia and Lando, and they kind of go off to have their own adventures. Maybe they turn up in the sequel trilogy in a way where they're reunited in some form. But the fact that, each of the, critical legacy characters, one was killed off in each of the sequel films. I don't know.
It was like a Harry Potter series.
It was well, I didn't really have anything emotionally invested in Harry Potter. I think the films are fine. I just wasn't at the age. It didn't hit me at the age where it really meant as much to me. But
one of the things I will say I did feel cheated about the whole trilogy is that I always wanted that shot of Luke, Leia, and Han together again.
Yes,
and that's what we never got.
Well, you'll get it if you look at Mark Hamill's Twitter feed.
Yeah,
because he did retweet a picture and I think he even hashtagged it "missed opportunities." Mm-hmm. He's absolutely right. The first film should have been a reuniting of them, maybe handing the baton to the new cast of characters, which I like some of those characters. I think that Kylo Ren is the most interesting character, along with Finn. But there's so many missed opportunities, and considering the fact that basically what J.J. Abrams and everyone's writing is fanfic, if you really think about it, you're not the original creator; it's fanfic. It's bad to sit here and think I could have come up with better ideas, but that's what I think. And I thought that they set up Finn to be a much more interesting character that didn't pay off. There really could have been an interesting moment.
You could insert a lot of things there because you've got all these extraneous characters and all these setups that just never go anywhere because one thing is you're trying to serve too many masters at this, because, all right, we have to do something with this character. We have to give lines to this character. I'm like, well, no, just focus on the core story, and then that will dictate who says what and, where we go with the story. But, that wasn't really what happened. It felt like it was very kitchen sinky, where you had to throw everything there, and everyone had to get a line. All of J.J. Abrams' friends had to get a line in the movie. But again, with all those things, I think the one thing that this is, everyone has their one dumb thing that they point out that logically that didn't work for Star Wars, and it's really interesting to talk to each different person because it's different for every person. For me, it was the whole setup of these giant Star Destroyers with these planet-killing weapons. Yeah, they the weather around their planet is awful. You can't get them off the planet without all of these special radio towers and all these transmissions and stuff. But the weather is not horrible enough that we can ride horses on the decks. So so there's little things like that. But again, you got to just disbelief, suspend, and you're either going to have fun or you're not.
Yeah, I guess. But I do think that when you set up the rules of your particular universe, fantasy universe especially, you follow those rules. There were just too many kitchen sink things thrown in. I don't know that there's a JJ cut that exists. I'm sure that there is a...
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure that was his cut.
Well, I'm sure that there was an assembly, which is normal when you're making films, right?
That's probably 5 hours long.
Right. Everything you shot is just assembled.
Yeah, it's an assembly.
In the order.
That's
So
what
the
everyone's
assembly,
yelling about, like the Snyder Justice League cut. They're like, well, no, that was probably an assembly cut. That's all.
it was an assembly cut with no effects, which would be very interesting to see. But the JJ cut.
Would it?
I mean, I like stuff like that. I like. I mean, I don't know. I like to see unfinished stuff like. I mean, it's it's not unprecedented. Look, Disney released years ago on the anniversary of Beauty and the Beast. They released the rough assembly pencil drawings in theaters of Beauty and the Beast. That came out, and there's no reason why. And I think that they're stupid if they don't. Look, it's a limited release thing. It's kind of like what they did with things like they've done it before with things like, Alien director's cut, Blade Runner director's cut, right? It's like,
every year a new Blade Runner director's cut came out.
Dune, exactly. Dune, also they've done it with Dune on television, although if you get the Japanese laser disc of David Lynch's Dune, you'll see that there are shots where people are just
that behind me somewhere?
No, people are just standing in front of a blue screen. Right, like they just it doesn't matter. There's in front of a blue screen.
Well, surely you could have found, unless that just hit you on such an emotional level, technically a worse movie than Rise of Skywalker in 2019.
I disagree. I think Dune has aged better, but Dune was, it's a very special, I'm not going to say the movie special. The book, which I read every year in high school, just blew my mind. I so look forward to David Lynch's Dune and did not love it. I think, having spoken to David Lynch in an interview for Film Threat in the past, he explains, it's been well documented, the problems that David Lynch had with Dino De Laurentiis.
Well, to be fair, it's very rare that as a fan, you get the director to explain himself to you.
Right. Look, whatever, I was talking to him about some other movie, and I had to segue off into asking about Revenge of the Jedi and Dune, but whatever. No, but that movie's actually aged better. I mean, not the effects, not the effects, but the score is great. I mean, it's surprising, but yes, the score by Toto is great. And I don't know, look, Kyle MacLachlan, I mean, still working to today. He's in Josh Trank's new movie coming out.
Oh, cool.
I don't even know what it is. I just saw a picture on his Instagram.
He's hilarious as the mayor in Portlandia.
Oh my God, he's so great in Portlandia. Anyway, so we were going to talk about Parasite. Let's get back to the best of 2019.
Parasite was a movie I really enjoyed. And it was the kind of movie that it was interesting. I didn't know where it was going to go. And it just kept me interested from start to finish. It was also one of those movies where you go, not only where is this going, where and how is it going to end? Like, what's going to happen? Now, I will say this again. This isn't a complaint about the film, but a complaint about the marketing in this country. Because the way it was set up, I mean, if you look at the Parasite trailers, they're all over the place. Like they couldn't figure out how to market this movie in this country. There's one that literally looks like a horror movie trailer. And then there's also, they lead up to this big twist in the film to the point where it's like, you're never going to see it coming. The Parasite is one thing, then it becomes another. And all of those things, like they hyped that up over and over and over to the point where I'm like, well, is this going to be like Cloverfield, where it's like a going away party and then a giant monster shows up? Is that right? That's how they were hyping it as a twist? And it did, in my opinion, it did a disservice to the filmmaker, because even there is a twist in the film, it's set up. It makes sense for the film, and it also it still is firmly entrenched and belongs in the filmmaker's world that he created. So to make it like, marketing wise, like this is some crazy out of left field twist is not fair to the filmmaker and his vision. So, because I really felt like everything fit and moved together nicely.
Yeah, no, I love the film. I do think that you're right that the marketing didn't do it a service, because it did look like it was a different movie. Yeah. I mean, it's, but it's also one that's sort of indefinable. I mean, it's about class struggle. Right. I mean, I love the thing with the phones. They're trying to get their phones. Yes. Can we just get phone service right up here in the corner, get the free Wi-Fi, and they're just trying. But yeah, but those are my favorite types of movies, are ones where it's like, well, what kind of movie is this? Right. I mean, that's a lot of indie films are difficult to describe and difficult to market.
Or they genre hop. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I do like the sort of genre blending that a lot of indie films do. I mean, and they're companies that are better at marketing those than others. I think A24 has proved themselves so good at
Well, that's their bread and butter. That's what they do.
They're so good. There's a film that, like, I don't know that I would put this on my best list, but definitely one that leans more into horror, which is In Fabric.
I haven't seen that yet.
In Fabric, which is about a woman, a divorced woman, kind of trying to get back on her feet and get into the dating world again. And she goes and buys a dress that haunts her. It's a killer dress.
Really?
Yeah. God, there was a
like
bad
IFC,
movie.
IFC Midnight or something?
Yeah, it's like, well, no, it was, no, that was an A24 movie, but look up the trailer for In Fabric. It's weird. It's this woman buys a dress and the dress tries to murder her. And all these creepy things happen around the dress. It's kind of like one of those, we saw earlier this year, there were a couple of really fun, bad movies that we talked about on Film Thread. The Drone, which is about a killer drone, like this sort of pervert murderer guy, like his soul gets sucked into a drone.
So Chucky drone.
It's like Chucky with a drone. And there's another one with a sofa, like a killer sofa. I think it's just called Killer Sofa. Really cheesy.
I want to see that immediately.
But this is sort of an
sofa?
art. It's like an art film version of that In Fabric. Really amazing. So,
what was more horrifying, In Fabric or Phantom Thread?
Oh, you know what? In Fabric. I mean, Phantom Thread's its whole other psychological thing. I mean, it's messed up. Yeah. It's
horrific for different reasons.
So we have a question from the chat.
Oh, let's hear it. Yes.
He says, not sure if you guys already discussed it, but where does Knives Out fall for you guys?
Knives Out is the last Jedi of murder mysteries. No, I really enjoyed Knives Out.
I liked it a lot.
It's fun. It makes fun of itself. It's genre. It sort of flips that genre.
Oh yeah.
It's if you see it a second time, and I've seen the movie 3 times, Knives Out just gives everything away at the beginning. It completely gives everything away.
It really feels like too. It's it's an old school masterpiece theater type of of movie, and it has all those elements, but it does something cool and interesting with it. Again, it seems to be like a trend. I'm going to take this old school Southern detective played by Daniel Craig,
right?
And and it's going to be a murder mystery, and it's going to be a rich family, like all of those elements. When you're like, well, how is this going to be pulled off in an interesting way? And sure enough, that's how. So, but if you look at Rian Johnson's history with doing that with the genre films, going all the way back to, I believe, Brick, you could see how he's really, really a master of taking, a certain genre and doing something different or interesting with it. Now, this was a unique film, and this is where I'll give the marketing a lot of credit, because it was also the kind of film that, my kids are different ages. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and if that movie was rated R, couldn't have taken them all. We couldn't have gone. Right, we actually went as a family to see this film.
Whoa.
And everyone loved it. Everyone thought it was really cool, really fun. And, even if they don't really recognize all of the famous actors in it, but they enjoyed the story. And it was the kind of thing where it was an unexpected movie, like, oh no, we'll go see this movie. It'll be really good. Well, I don't know what this is. Do I really want to see this movie? And you go, you see it, you enjoy it. And then they were talking about it for days after. About how much fun it was, because it was a well-crafted film. And this is what, I don't get, going back to Star Wars, about Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. Did I love that movie? No. But here's the thing. Rian Johnson made a Rian Johnson Star Wars movie. If you hire Rian Johnson, don't be surprised when Rian Johnson shows up. It's such a ridiculous comment to well, this is what but that's what he was supposed to do. That this is what he would have done. If you give him this job, this is what he's going to do. So, it's more on the people that hired him than what he did. Well, if you didn't think he was right for this, you should have, hired somebody else. Yeah. So it's he does a very specific thing. If you don't want it, don't hire him.
Yeah. Well, I just thought that Knives Out was thoroughly entertaining.
Yes.
It didn't, and even though it kind of leaned into wokeness, it did it in a way that it made fun of wokeness while being woke. Does that make sense?
It did. It was if we could create a new term, postmodern meta.
Yeah. Yeah, postmodern meta. That
Yeah.
makes sense. No, Knives Out definitely fulfilled that. Yeah. So, okay, what else? What else are we talking about for some of the best until we get to my personal favorite?
Well, it's the elephant of 2019. Is Avengers Endgame. I thought was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I really liked it. I've been on this journey since I was a kid, reading Marvel comics, and just at the start of Iron Man to see all of these things put together. I felt like we're not going to see something like that again for a very long time, where it was like the culmination of all these movies kind of together and all these characters. And what's interesting about this Marvel movie, Avengers Endgame, you couldn't have fit any more superheroes in that movie.
Right.
And it never felt like to me that, we're just giving that character a few lines. We're just giving this character a few lines. It really felt like the story was so well crafted and put together that everyone had something to do. Everyone had something interesting to say. And all of the characters and the storylines meshed together in a way that was being set up over the last decade.
Yeah, I just don't think we're going to see that again. And I almost am sure that while they were planning this out, they had certain beats to meet, but like it was sort of magical. And also I think people underestimate how popular Robert Downey Jr. is, and that if
someone shows up with a script that was written 10 years ago and it says Avengers Endgame, I would be blown away and just feel like they're a time traveler.
Right. They're never going to be able to do this. But having seen Kevin Feige's presentation at the Marvel panel at San Diego Comic-Con, the impression that he gave is that you're not going to see that again, but you're going to see storylines that play out over 3 to 5 years, right? 3 years, you'll have like a big coming together of the heroes. It's not going to be this 10 years leading to one, 2-part film.
Right.
So I think now, like, I don't know, my interest in Marvel is sort of like, that's good. Sort of like my interest in Star Wars, like the chapter is now closed.
Yes.
I'm good. I've got the Mandalorian. I'm
Let's
enjoying
see what's
that.
next.
Let's see what's next. But I think that's where the Marvel movies succeed, whereas Star Wars has failed us. At least the Star Wars sequel trilogy, the movies, is that the Marvel films shows us something we haven't seen. Show me something I haven't seen. I haven't seen these characters interact together. I haven't seen, and that's the thing that people underestimate about these films, which is why Rise of Skywalker was such a disappointment, because it's just almost too big special effects wise. Some of the greatest moments of these movies are the human moments.
Yes, of course.
Those character
best science
moments.
fiction is about people, always.
Right. I mean, look at the original Star Trek series or any of that. It's just like these moments where it's just like two people in a room talking. Yeah. Right. Like, or, Tony Stark commenting, for a second, I thought you were a Build-A-Bear. I thought you were a builder. I didn't know you're talking.
And him just like, working on his armor, just like these small moments like that. And
I think that
what Disney the biggest misfire Disney made was thinking that the Star Wars universe was equal to the Marvel universe. And now when they look, and the reason is because of size. With Marvel, you literally have thousands of characters over years and years and years and years. With Star Wars, I mean, when you had 3 movies and some television programming. So and
comic books and novels.
Yes, but all of those were still built off of those movies.
Right.
So whereas Marvel, I mean, even just look at the genres. Like people make the giant mistake sometimes that comic books are a genre. They're not. They're a medium. So, but Star Wars is the science fiction genre. That's what it is. But in comic books and Marvel, you have everything. You have horror, superheroes, you have magic, science fiction. I mean, you have Guardians of the Galaxy. If that was, just on its own, like that, why would we need to see a Guardians of the Galaxy movie every single every single year? You wouldn't. But so Marvel was a much bigger universe. Disney realized that and realized, okay, well, we can break this up and do different stories in different ways. But with Marvel, we can literally do anything, because in a comic book universe, you have everything. You have time travel. You have every genre trope you could possibly imagine. Science fiction, superheroes, fantasy. You have everything, and you can put that all together in any way you like.
Well, what's interesting is Kevin Feige even commented once that they don't make superhero movies. They do what Hollywood used to do, which is a movie includes drama, comedy, elements of horror, right? All these different elements kind of combined, where it's indefinable. It's just an entertaining movie. so that's his comment. As like if you look at every Marvel movie, it has all these elements.
Yep.
I mean, to higher and lower degrees, right? Some may be more comedy than others. I think Thor Ragnarok being the best Thor film because it's the most funny, but it also has all the that sort of history and lore.
Tone is different too. Like when you look at like an Ant-Man movie, or if you look at Winter Soldier, those tones, they're different. I really looked at the Ant-Man movie. I'm like, why is this PG-13? This is like an old school.
Yeah, why was it PG-13?
This is like an old school Disney, family film. Which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But, marketing department said, look, if we make this PG, no one's going to go see it. We got to just give it a PG-13.
That's interesting.
But if you look at it, tell me what made it PG-13. Like, it wasn't excessive violence. It wasn't. It wasn't. It was a fun family film that was a lot lighter than, say, Winter Soldier. Now, I loved both of them, but for different reasons, and they can both exist in the same universe. Like, the people were wondering, like, whoa, the Ant-Man, he's like a much lighter character. How's he going to fit into this universe? I'm like, it's a comic book universe. He'll fit. It'll be okay.
But that's interesting because each of them have their own tones and kind of their own
for
sort
sure.
of... Yeah. So I'm cautiously optimistic about Disney, Marvel, all that, and how they're integrating the Marvel characters into the Disney Plus platform.
Yeah. And, the other thing we may see, too, is now with Fox being rolled in, we might start seeing the mutants slowly enter into the... Marvel universe. We don't know how fast that's going to be, but it's coming. That's
been rumored about for a long time. Mm-hmm. So I know it's eventually going to happen.
Yeah.
I just want to see a good Fantastic Four movie in my lifetime. I would like to see that.
Well, we have a few misses before that happened, and even more if you count the Roger Corman
one. To me, actually, if you think about it, I think Fantastic Four actually lends itself more to being television than just because there's so many characters. It's just sort of the mystery. I see it almost as like the old Johnny Quest adventure cartoon, right? It's just adventures. They're not so much superheroes because they don't really have secret identities. They have nicknames, and they got rid of the secret identity thing in the second issue of the Fantastic Four.
It's definitely
Ben Grimm just ripped apart his suit. It's like bah. Yeah, that's when Ben Grimm used to say bah. Mm-hmm.
And it's
okay, does anyone read comics here? But, okay, all right.
But you're definitely right because it's such a rich world, but it also feels like it's there's certain properties, like Fantastic Four is one of them, that really feel like kind of an old school comic book feel to them. And there's two ways you can go with it. You could lean into that and make it like a cool kind of show that kind of celebrates the silver or golden age of comics, or you take everything and then you reboot it into a modern take of everything. So, I'm sure those discussions are being had right now, and they're like, well, should we put this on Disney Plus? Should we make a film? Like, what do we do with this property?
Well, I think it was Peyton Reed who did the Ant-Man films.
Yes.
When he did a pitch to Marvel, he was going to do a Fantastic Four movie, and his idea was to actually do it as a period piece, actually do it as set in the 60s, in that sort of like JFK Camelot era, early 60s, when the Fantastic Four first came out, right, in 1961. So that would have been a cool take on it, and maybe with alternate universes and all that, like perhaps, and with time travel now being a part of the Marvel universe, I mean, perhaps we'll see a Fantastic Four movie set in the early 60s. That would be kind of cool. And then maybe they get sort of, plucked out of that time period into the modern times. Right. I don't know. There's so much
America. You can do a lot of things.
There's so much they can do. I hope that they're thinking along those lines. And I look forward to the future, but I don't think we're going to ever reach the highs of Avengers Endgame. I just think that is just a moment in time, and that I think that's it. I think, okay, good. And only because Kevin Feige can only live for so long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also he had built up, a lot of people don't know this, he worked for Avi Arad. He worked as an intern for Richard Donner, who did the original Superman. So Kevin Feige's career, he's sort of gotten and learned from these other producers, from the mistakes that they've made, having worked for them, got himself to a point where he was then, running Marvel Studios, and now running Marvel everything.
The same conversation is always going to be like, well, how's Kevin doing? Is he going to leave? All right, well,
is he going to run Star Wars?
What can we have him do? And all right, well, if we're not sure, see how available Jon Favreau is.
Right.
Not to hop on Mike, but here I go.
Right.
Guess who introduced Kevin Feige to comic books?
Who introduced Kevin Feige to comic books?
Jeff Johns.
Jeff Johns. Well, there you go.
Okay.
All right, cool.
It's a pretty good guy to introduce you to comics.
Let's we're closing in on wrapping this up.
Okay.
This was we're filming our test.
Yes.
This literally was set up moments before we decided. Well, we can.
Well, the fact that we're getting comments means it actually worked.
Hey,
so the people are watching.
Right. But I want to talk about one of my favorite films this year. Might be my favorite film, which it's Uncut Gems. Okay, I have long made fun of Adam Sandler for many of his earlier funny films, which I was not a huge fan of, just because I felt like they kind of just appealed to lowest common denominator humor, which is fine. I feel like that is a place. Who doesn't love a good, well-placed fart joke? I know I do. But Uncut Gems is on a whole other level. His performance, and he's got like these, you can tell he has these like fake teeth. He's created this character who's a jeweler who has a gambling addiction, who's constantly trying to trade one thing for another, where he's like pawning a ring here to get money here so he can make a bet here, but he owes his brother-in-law $100,000, but he's trying to like play it off and like sort of like skirt all these other people that he owes money to while running this jewelry shop. Like, it's insanity. It's the film version of doing cocaine. It truly is this manic energy. You feel not just tense, just a tenseness.
Favorite film
of
2019?
It's like having anxiety. It's my personal favorite film of 2019 is Uncut Gems by the Safdie brothers, who have this manic style that just is also rooted in some reality. Right. You feel like it's an indie films just do this better. They ground things in reality. He becomes friends with Kevin Garnett, the NBA player, and KG, as he calls him, is in the midst of the playoffs, and he wants this gem, but it's Kevin Garnett plays Kevin Garnett, and the game. I have to research this. And find out, is that like partly like real footage of the game, and then they shot some additional stuff? I'm gonna guess that it's that, because it's amazing how they wove in elements of this real NBA playoff series with Kevin Garnett, with other footage that they shot, with this weird effed up reality of Adam Sandler skirting people he owes money to. It's amazing, the energy. It's one of those things that
now, what studio did it? Is it streaming or is it?
It's A24.
Okay.
Yeah, it's A24. It's in theaters, actually. It opened Christmas Day. Christmas Day. That's the film to not take your family to see, Uncut Gems. There's so much more I could rave about this. I wish we could do a whole episode about it, but it's my personal favorite for a number of reasons. This movie is going to stand the test of time, and also it renews my faith in films. This is why I kind of feel like when we talk about movies, there's a best way to describe it is that Star Wars derangement syndrome. We talk about Star Wars too much. I include myself in this.
Yeah.
I talk about Star Wars too. Almost every episode of the Film Threat podcast, some Star Wars reference will make its way into the show. But like then
I'm derangement adjacent, where I won't start the conversation, but if someone mentions it, I'll jump in.
Sure, jump into the conversation. But like what the thing is that I feel like with having a diversified media diet, I don't care as much that Star Wars disappointed me, right? I feel like if there are people in fandom, that Star Wars was so disappointing, it's sort of like having like the sports team that you followed your entire life, lose the Super Bowl, right? Like, which as a Detroit Lions fan, hello, they've never been to the Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions, we have a saying, it's not over till we lose. All right. That's, oh my God, Detroit Lions. Anyways, I'm still a fan. But films like Uncut Gems, 1917, so many of these movies just Paddleton, like just renew your faith.
And Parasite.
Just renew your faith. A movie called Waves, I think that was fantastic with Sterling K. Brown. We didn't talk about Waves, which has that's one also either see in a theater or crank your surround system.
Oh, I will say this.
The music in that is insane. And they do
Waves.
this shot where it's a 360 degree shot inside of a car where you're like, how did they do that? So these are the films that if you keep a diversified media diet, the failure of the 9th film in the, I hate the term Skywalker saga. It's not as devastating because you have other films that you're into seeing.
Well, Bobby, do you remember what year Train to Busan was? Was that 2019? Because
Oh no, that was
it was 2018.
15 maybe.
15 because
Bobby Schwartz is running the board
and
here. So we're
now because it just hit Netflix. Like, was it last year or?
I think it was last.
Yeah.
It was last year. That
Because I just got to see it last year, and I will say, even though it may not be a 2019 film, I think by the time we got it, it may have been. It was fantastic. It was one of the best zombie movies I've ever seen, like a Train to Busan. In fact, like I was watching it with my wife, and she goes to me, "I don't think I've ever cried at a zombie movie before."
Wow.
I mean, it was because it had an emotional impact. That horror movies, when they get it right, they're just as effective as dramas.
You know what did not have an emotional impact? The Rise of Skywalker. That did not have an emotional
I disagree. I think you had a severe emotional impact with you.
I'm
Yeah.
pissed off that it just ended in something that will be a meme that will haunt J.J. Abrams forever.
Yeah, he'll get over it.
Yeah, but Uncut Gems, put that on your list. I want to let everyone know that is watching and or listening to this that we are putting on an award show.
We are indeed.
We are putting on an award show on Wednesday, February 5th, the week before the Oscars. We are putting on an award show that you can get tickets to if you go to awardthis.com or go to filmthreat.com. You'll see a little banner. You can purchase tickets. It's the only award show. You cannot get into the Oscars. You cannot get into the Spirit Awards. You can buy tickets to Award This. We actually have a small number, limited number of tickets that you can purchase that are on sale now. You can come to the party. There's an after party.
Chris, is there going to be a red carpet too?
There's a red carpet. There are free drinks and appetizers. It's like, I don't know where you can buy a ticket for that cheap. I think tickets are like $40.
Yeah,
where
$40.
you get like free drinks. That's $40 is what cocktails cost in Los Angeles.
And they're very limited. We only have a limited amount of tickets.
A small amount of tickets. So we're a small amount of tickets for that. It's Wednesday, February 5th in Glendale at the Studio Movie Grill, which sounds like it's this luxurious. It's got a red carpet thing. There's a cool bar. We're taking over 2 theaters in there to put on the show.
It's going to be some cool presenters. I'm booking a bunch of
Don't
comedians. I won't say any names
don't
yet.
Say who, but there's some pretty cool comedians and actors and people from the world of indie film that are going to be there. We're announcing
And producers too.
We will announce our nominees next week via YouTube. Not on the podcast, but maybe we should do it on the podcast. We'll see.
There's no rules, Chris. You could do it both.
There's no rules. We're doing, we're doing both. We're testing this out, but we hope that you'll check out if you live in LA or if you want to come to the, they can get a train ticket or a plane ticket. You can come
not
out
that
here.
far.
Travel. Come to the awards. It'll be a lot of fun. And there you will learn about a lot of these small indie movies that we talk about on filmthreat.com. I mean, we will review anything. If you're an indie filmmaker, you want to have your film reviewed, go to filmthreat.com, click on the little button at the top that says submit, send us your movie. We'll give it a review. Chris Mancini, thank you so much for doing this episode of the Film Threat Podcast.
Great to be here. Great to be part of the Film Threat crew now.
You are part of the Film Threat crew, and you will be a recurring character.
Indeed.
You're the IG-11 of the Film Threat Podcast. And I
feel like a bounty hunter. I do.
You do. I am Chris Gore. Please follow Film Threat. We're Film Threat on everything. If you're listening to this, the Film Threat Podcast, just subscribe on whatever platform. I listen on Spotify, and I spot check it. I never listen to the whole podcast. I can't stand the sound of my own voice, but I spot check it on Spotify. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Give this a like and a share. I know that's what everybody says. There's no really clever way of putting it, but we're going to be experimenting with original content on YouTube. This is literally
maybe expanding's a better word.
We're expanding, but I will say this: we're literally like, look at this table. It's not even. This is so.
We
fresh.
will be experimenting with the table.
Paint, we are in setup mode with all of this. So we thought, hey, let's try out all this fancy equipment. And we're also.
Yeah, when I came in, Chris Gore had a drill in his hand.
I did. I had a drill. We were setting this up mere moments before we went on. So I thank you for that. And then also let you know that this studio space will also be the home for Attack of the Doc. Bobby Schwartz and I and a whole team of creatives are working on a documentary about G4 TV and Attack of the Show. You might have heard about it from our Kickstarter. You can continue to support. If you missed the Kickstarter and you want to continue to support Attack of the Doc and be a part of our journey to get this documentary made, you can go to patreon.com/Attack of the Doc. Just look us up on Patreon. There are all sorts of interesting rewards. One of the rewards is I'm going to bring back DVDs Day for a certain. You can watch me doing DVD reviews only on the Patreon for Attack of the Doc. There are other rewards. So if you missed out on our Kickstarter, check that out. But this is our new studio. We are still in setup mode to the point where this might fall off. This giant cassette might fall off. What can you say? I want to thank you that have been watching. If you've watched later, stick with us. We've got some really interesting guests that are going to be coming up. I don't know if I should be plugging some of them yet, but a lot of filmmakers that are going to Sundance are going to come to our studio here at the Farmhouse Studios, and will be talking to us about their movies. So just subscribe and stick with us. I know this is a long thing.
It's all right.
But we're not
going to run out of tape.
I know, exactly. And I want to start a dialogue with you. So most of our podcast has been interviews with filmmakers and discussions and reviews of movies. Now our reason for leaning into YouTube is to have a conversation with everyone who follows Film Threat, which has been around, something I started in fucking high school. What was I thinking? I started in fucking high school, and here it is. I'm still doing Film Threat. So thank you for watching.
So long, everybody.
Tom shot first. Took that for you.